What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Welcome to the #1 ranked show. And if you are here, please take some time to leave us a 5-star review and let me know what you like, what you don't like about the show. Today, I want to talk about the Heisman Trophy and why I don't think it's a good predictor of great college football players. And then I want to talk to you about what I believe, or who I believe I should say, are the greatest college football players of all time. And we're going to have a little conversation about the college football playoffs likely expansion, what that number is probably going to be, and what you think it should be. And I'm excited to hear what you think. But first, let's talk about this Heisman Trophy thing for just a second here, all right? So the Heisman Trophy is kind of trash. In fact, it downright sucks when talking about the greatest college football players of all time. For example, there's this player. He holds the third best winning percentage by a starting quarterback with at least 30 career starts since the Division I split in 1978. He's second only to the Miami Hurricanes quarterback, Ken Dorsey, in winning percentage. He left his school as the winningest starting quarterback in its history, too. He completed 66.6% of his passes. Mark of the beast, anybody, for more than 10,000 yards with 90 touchdowns and 17 interceptions for a passing efficiency rating of 164.3. Means he also broke his conference's record, once held by a Heisman winner, for passing efficiency, and is the first starting quarterback in his league's history to win 3 consecutive ACC titles. He ended his career undefeated as a starter in the regular season across both high school and college. He made 5 career college football playoff starts, setting the record for the most at one school. He became the first true freshman quarterback to lead his team to a national title in 30 years. Also, as a true freshman, he started the final 11 games of 2018. His Clemson Tigers became the first major college football team in the modern era to go 15-0, including a 44-16 stomping of Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. That player who did all of that and didn't win the Heisman is Trevor Lawrence. And I can just stick with Clemson here and tell you about the first 4,000-yard, 1,000-yard dude in the 152-year history of the sport. He also whooped Nick Saban's Alabama in the national championship. He threw for 405 yards with 5 total touchdowns in winning time. In 2015, he put up over 5,200 total yards of offense with 47 total touchdowns. His name is Deshaun Watson. And here's one more. This dude broke multiple national college football records while rushing for 1,925 yards in one season, while leading the country in rush attempts with a gaudy 339. He ran for over 100 yards against 8 different opponents. He was the engine for the team's undefeated run in 2004's regular season, taking the squad to the national title game. In the Heisman voting for the best season of his life, Adrian Peterson finished second to USC's Matt Leinart, the quarterback of the team that beat his in the national championship. And if he played during the playoff era instead of the BCS one, there's no doubt that Adrian Peterson would have rushed for 2,000 yards in 2004. Speaking of 2,000-yard rushers, did you know there have been 35 of those in the history of the sport? You know how many have won the Heisman? Let's tick off the names right quick. Tony Dorsett in 1976, Charles White in 1979, Marcus Allen in 1981, Mike Rozier in 1983, Rashaan Salam in 1994, Barry Sanders in 1988, Ricky Williams in 1998, and Ron Dane in 1999. And then, Derrick Henry in 2015. That's 9 out of 35. And this is for a trophy dominated by running backs and quarterbacks. Matter of fact, just one defensive player ever has won the Heisman. It's Charles Woodson. And Woodson had to play both ways to do it. Only 7 players who did not play in an offensive backfield, that is quarterback, running back, halfback, fullback, have won the award. Larry Kelly in 1936, Leon Hart in 1949, Johnny Rodgers in 1972, Tim Brown in 1987, Desmond Howard in 1991, Woodson 97, and Devontae Smith in 2020. Any college football award that professes to pick the best player in the game annually and can't come up with more than one defensive winner since it began in 1935 cannot be trusted. But the most egregious reason the Heisman Trophy is awful at annually picking the best player in the sport, but especially of all time, is segregation. Many people talk about the modern era as beginning post-World War II. I don't consider that the modern era. I consider the modern era beginning post-integration, when most predominantly white universities began fielding Black players around about 1970. And while Syracuse running back Ernie Davis became the first Black Heisman winner in 1961, even playing some linebacker that year, he's nowhere near the top 10 players ever in the sport. This is especially true when you consider another Syracuse running back. Jim Brown accounted for 1,000 yards from scrimmage and averaged better than 6 yards per clip in 1956. And he played just 8 games that season. The Orangemen finished 7-1 with a Cotton Bowl berth. But he finished 5th, all 5 of my fingers, in the Heisman voting that year. The man voters gave the award to was Paul Hornung. He somehow won a Heisman while throwing 13 interceptions and just 3 touchdowns, while quarterbacking a Notre Dame team that finished 2-8. So miss me with whether or not, or even how many Heisman trophies a player has won, and especially when talking about the greatest players ever. Any award that could give Paul Hornung the trophy in 1956 and couldn't crown the likes of Jim Brown, let alone acknowledge HBCUs, or acts as if defensive players and offensive linemen cannot be the best players in the sport, needs to be destroyed and rebuilt into one that does. About 900 people vote on the Heisman each year. Most of those are media members. The rest are former winners. This is fine. I have no problem with this. What's not is leaving it up to them to rank their top 3 choices for the best player in the country. Expecting these men, many of whom cover the sport, to stand in the idea that Chase Young, with his 21 tackles for loss and 16.5 sacks, was a better football player than Joe Burrow and his 5,600 yards and 60 touchdowns in 2019, or that North Carolina cornerback Dre Bly, with his 11 interceptions in one friggin' year, was a better football player than 96 Heisman winner Danny Werfel, who threw for 3,600 yards, 39 TDs, and 13 picks, only works if the apparatus allows for such a thing to not look untoward, unpopular, or irregular, even to some people profane. You have to build for the underrepresented population in a system designed for the rich, quarterbacks and running backs here, to get richer. A way to do this is to reevaluate how those players are selected to be on the ballot. The player with the most tackles is arguably the most important player is as important as the most important player with the most important completions. I should say the most completions, right? I'm saying a linebacker is just as valuable as a quarterback, basically, right? Defensive players and offensive linemen need to be included in the conversation as well, all the way up to the finalists. Penei Sewell was really, really good in 2019. And capping the number of quarterbacks and running backs selected can help ensure we see more equitable treatment across what we continue to call the ultimate team game. So rather than asking these folks to list their 3 best players, give categories for these things so that at the very least, we do see an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a linebacker, a safety, a cornerback mentioned among the top 10 vote getters when we talk about the best players in the sport annually. And then let's talk about it being a football award and not a quarterback or running back award.